story I am about to share happened in the mid-90s, but whenever I think about it, it sends chills down my spine. I was 19 years old at that time, just graduated from high school, and was trying to figure out how the game of life worked. I decided to move out from my parents' house because they were abusive and toxic, and living with them was making me very depressed, especially when they knew I failed again to secure a scholarship to college. I felt like a burden to them, a really bad one, and they made me feel that way every single day. So I started hunting for a cheap place to stay. Being broke at that time and overworking at a newly opened bakery house, I finally found a nice offer with the help of my friend. Let's call him Josh. It was practically a part of the basement of a big house owned by an old couple. It was a bit isolated, but in a good and quiet neighborhood and close to the bus station. When we visited them to see the room, the couple seemed really nice, and the wife insisted on giving us some freshly baked cookies with hot chocolate. The couple was in their late 70s, but were fit and healthy. The husband told us that he was a retired sheriff and inherited the house from his father. He wanted to rent the basement, not because he needed money, but just to have some company since they were both old, and their daughter was disabled. He chatted with us until I felt comfortable, and also, I liked the room, although it was dark with small, narrow windows. But it was clean, cozy, and had separate entrance from the main house, and most importantly furnished, meaning fewer expenses for my tight budget. I just had to bring my clothes and some new bed sheets. So I couldn't complain and moved in the next week. In the first few days of my stay, I didn't notice anything unusual, mostly because I used to stay at work until late at night and came straight to bed. But then, I started to notice odd things happening. First, I saw a lady in pink nightgowns and heavy makeup holding a strange teddy bear in her lap. She looked in her mid-50s, sitting on the top of the stairs of their house, watching me as I entered the basement. I thought it must be the daughter, as they mentioned something about her. I didn't complain, and just started to avoid her creepy gaze, as she didn't do anything harmful. One day, trying to find my way in the dark to open the room, I discovered her sleeping on my bed, almost naked. I screamed, ran away from my room to the house, and before knocking on the main door, found the elderly couple looking awkwardly at me. The man hurried downstairs, and the woman faded into the house after smirking at me. In just a few moments, he came back holding the woman's hands. She was giggling loudly, and they invited me in. The wife took her upstairs while she continued giggling, showing her yellow, half-broken teeth and staring straight at my face. I sat in the living room with the elderly man. He offered me a cup of hot tea and apologized for the inconvenience that happened today. He explained that the woman I saw is their daughter Lydia, mentally unstable, and assured me that she doesn't harm anyone. He deeply apologized for not informing me about her situation in details earlier, thinking I might judge them. I was young and naive at that time. I felt sorry for the man, who seemed genuinely sad and ashamed, so I couldn't argue. Wished them a good night and left to sleep. The following days, awkward things kept happening. Sometimes, I woke up in the middle of the night to hear her banging on my windows, smiling with those terrible teeth. Once, out of nowhere, she jumped on my back while I was trying to find my keys, licking me until I had to forcefully throw her to the ground, causing some wounds on her forehead Her parents apologized every time something happened, even offering to reduce the rent. I was helpless enough to accept, saving up enough money to get a real apartment. But what pushed me to the limit was what happened on a late Friday night. I told the owners that I would go to a party with some friends and probably wouldn't spend the night there, so they could lock the big front door from inside. While at the party, feeling uneasy and having a bad headache, my Josh offered me a ride, and he backed off. I found the front door unlocked, and the big house was dark, which was awkward. Heading to my room downstairs, I noticed a light shining from underneath. As I entered, I witnessed one of the scariest scenes. The weird woman, wearing red lingerie, sitting around black candles, and her mother, naked, reciting something strange from a paper. Around them were pictures of me sleeping. I don't know when they were taken. They looked at me unsurprised, and the mother said to her daughter, "Look at our groom. He came early for his bride." Before I could react, the door slammed behind me, and the father, wearing pink nightgown and holding a knife, appeared. I tried to scream, but felt paralyzed and afraid that the man would attack me. But luck was by my side when we heard a hard banging on the front door. It turned out to be my friend Josh. The man, looking scared, glanced at his wife, who said something in a strange language I didn't understand. He let me go and told me to shut up and F off. I hurried up to the front door, found my friend waiting there. I pushed him into the car and told him to get as far as he could from here. I was freaked out and couldn't collect my thoughts. We technically were both half drunk, so we decided not to go to the police that night to avoid any unwanted problems on the road to my friend's place. He told me I forgot my wallet in his car, and he wasn't having a good time at the party anyway, so he wanted to give me my wallet back and check if I was okay. The next morning, I went straight to the police station, only to find the man and his wife there with their daughter, looking at the floor. She started screaming when she saw me. The police came straight to me, and I found out that they were trying to file a complaint against me, saying I tried to hit their quote, unquote, poor sick daughter while I was drunk yesterday. They even gave them a medical certificate they did behind my back when I tried to defend myself from their daughter's attack. When I told the police my story, they laughed at me because the man was their friend and was a very respected sharif in the area. But still, they decided to visit the basement where I live for customs. The room was clean, neat, and even the smell of candles wasn't there. I ended up arguing with them not to pursue the case, and with the help of my friend, collected my stuff and never went back. Years passed, but the incident still feels like a living nightmare, and I still wonder what they were trying to do to me that night. What would have happened if my friend didn't interrupt the ritual? And most importantly, if the sickness I felt at that party had anything to do with the ritual they were conducting. I was 27 years old, living alone with my 3-year-old baby girl, trying to start a new chapter of my life after getting a divorce from my abusive husband. I had fought really hard to get child custody and moved to another state. I began working from home with a marketing agency, and our life was good in the beautiful apartment until a couple moved into the apartment right next door to mine. The couple was young. The woman was a 23-year-old lady, and her boyfriend was around 30. I found the woman to be quite nice, and we often chatted in the corridor. I was friendly with her, but I had had never even spoken to her boyfriend. She always told me he was shy. I also noticed that they fought a lot, and she would vent to me about it. I usually don't like to get into people's drama, but I also felt compassion towards her, seeing in her my younger self trapped in a helpless, abusive relationship. So, I kept listening to her while also distancing myself from the drama. Until one day, I received a text from an unknown number asking me to have sex with them. I had no idea who it was. I wasn't interested, but I was curious and creeped out. I looked up the number, and it turned out to be the guy next door. I was scared. I found out he had gotten my number from his girlfriend's phone. I refused his advances, but didn't tell his girlfriend because I didn't want to create any unnecessary drama. After this incident, he tried contacting me a few times, but things got quiet. I didn't forget about it, but I thought he had given up. Until a few days later, I saw messages on Facebook from him, but they said, "Message removed," before I could read any of them. I felt very uncomfortable, especially when I had to walk beside him. He didn't say anything and always looked at the floor, which made me feel even more afraid because I thought he was plotting something. Until one day, in the middle of the night, I heard loud banging on my door. When I opened it, I found her shivering, blood on her hands. I locked myself in with my baby, called the police while she was trying to break the door, screaming, "Why didn't you tell me, bitch? Who do you think you are?" When the police came and arrested her, it turned out she had attacked her boyfriend because she thought he was cheating on her. The texts I used to get from the guy weren't from him at all. It was her testing me if I was interested in her boyfriend. This also explained why the guy never talked to me in an inappropriate way, because he had no idea about the texts. After that night, the boyfriend was injured, went to the hospital, and moved out of the apartment as soon as he got out. As for her, she was sentenced to 1 year in prison. As it turned out, this was not the first time she had become violent with one of her boyfriends. One thing that kept worrying me was the fact that she might come after me for revenge after getting out of jail. But that never happened. Anyway, I moved to my hometown after 6 months to live with my mother after my father passed away. I moved into a new apartment with my cat, Cal, and I was thrilled to finally have a home of my own after securing a stable job. I lived next to a woman in her late 50s who lived alone with her 5 cats. She befriended me, and I thought she was nice enough, especially since she shared my love for cats. We'd have a few drinks together once a week, and then I'd head home. Initially, we got along well, but things took a strange turn. She started coming to my house very often, insisting on helping me clean the house for free. At first, I thought it was an act of kindness, and please don't judge me. I was in my early 20s, very naive, and had poor social skills. Additionally, she became like a mother figure to me since I lost my mom when I was just a kid. I ended up trusting her too much and gave her the key to my house, and I'd return to find everything in order. My cat Cal well-fed, happy, and sometimes she even left freshly baked cookies on the table. And most importantly, she never stole anything. However, things changed when I noticed furniture being rearranged without my consent. One day, I found her throwing away my favorite curtains and replacing them with new ones she purchased, claiming she didn't like them. Another time, I woke up in the middle of the night to a loud voice from the TV in the living room. I was very scared and thought someone had broken into my house because I always turned it off. When I finally mustered the courage to confront whoever was in my house, I was shocked to find her lying on my sofa, wearing one of my favorite nightgowns and watching my favorite TV show with my cat on her lap. When I asked her what she was doing in my house at that time, she simply said, "I'm having some fun. Now go back to your room and have some sleep." Feeling disrespected and unsafe in my own home, I asked her to leave my house immediately. She started laughing hysterically and calling me names like an ungrateful bitch. I reached for my phone to call the police, but she took a knife and threatened to hurt my cat. I ended up begging her to stop and apologized on top of that just to get her out of my house. Immediately after, I called the police, but they didn't take me seriously and blamed me for giving a stranger my house key. Feeling both sad and unsafe, I called my friend to come and help me change the locks, as I felt extremely worried to leave my house for a second, knowing that this crazy woman has a copy of the keys. After that, I began encountering her outside my apartment, and her behavior escalated. She started to copy my clothing style, mimicked my haircut, and even followed me to work, spreading false stories about me not paying her for services. This caused me trouble at work. My boss threatened to fire me if I kept bringing my drama to work. My life became unbearable, and it reached a breaking point when I came home and couldn't find my cat, Cal. He always came to play with me as soon as I opened the door. I immediately sensed that this had something to do with this crazy woman. She probably snatched him from the balcony because the poor thing used to trust her. A few days later, I discovered him dead in the street, poisoned. I called the police, but they claimed there was no evidence to take action because the woman was a cat lover after all. Devastated, I took a long break from work, isolating myself at home, feeling guilty for how dumb I was to put my favorite animal in danger by allowing this terrible woman into my house. At that time, I was still haunted by her bullying behind my door. At last, my sister, who lived in another state and was worried about my situation, offered me a place to stay until I could find somewhere else to stay. And I had to leave my job too. I gladly accepted, escaping the nightmare. This nightmarish experience left me with severe trust issues that I'm still healing from to this day. I avoid talking to my neighbors as a result, and also, I never adopted another cat.